This is actually our second outreach workshop for our, well, not for this request for proposals, but we did this in 2015. It got some very positive feedback.
We're just going to try to turn it up.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I'm trying to get out of your way. Okay, very simple agenda today. I will provide you with an overview that I will try to get through really quickly by talking, yeah, there it goes, talking incredibly quickly. And then what we want to do is save most of the time for the staff to introduce themselves to you, and then so that you get a chance, you'll notice there are little placards on the tables in the back, and so that you can talk to them one-on-one about possible ideas. So what I'm going to start by doing is just a little bit of basic information on Washington Sea Grant. First question, did everyone get the RFP? Is our MailChimp system working? Yay, okay. Most people are nodding. So just some background. In case you're new to the university or to Washington, we're a 45-year-old university NOAA partnership. We are housed in the College of the Environment. We are part of a national network of 33 Sea Grant colleges that are located throughout coastal states in the U.S. Our federal allocation is about $2.5 million annually, and it has to be matched. We're established under federal law, and for every $2 federal that goes in, you have to have $1 in matching funds. So that's a total base budget of somewhere around $4 million. We have 26 staff, and you're going to meet many of them today. They manage our research and education programs and do outreach, education, and communications. About half of the program funds are used for competitive projects, and the main way that we distribute those funds is through the RFP that you received last week. And they're competitively selected. Sea Grant is a little bit different from most competitive research projects in that it's not limited necessarily to traditional scientific research. It also is intended to, one of the big tenets of it is to take scientific information, work with partners throughout the state, and develop useful information and decision-making tools. So this is the primary goal of the program.
You've got to pop up. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I don't have it on the screen. There it is. Okay, so what we do, the easiest way to look at what we do is to look at the way that we spend our funding. Last year, we had about $6.5 million to distribute. About half of our funding goes into what we've called research. I'm going to talk about a little bit different way that we're going to look at this funding this year, but that 46% is the competitively awarded projects. This does include the matching requirement for those projects. Then about a quarter of our fund is in our marine advisory services, and you can see the other parts of it, the communications, education, and our program management all add up to about another quarter. So that's the way our funding is distributed. Just a minute on, you'll meet our folks in our outreach programs in a few minutes, but just so you see, to give you an idea of the scope of the project, they're located throughout the state, and they do research, they do technical training, a lot of workshops and outreach events, and there's a really wide variety of expertise resident in our staff. So you can kind of take a look at these as quickly as I can read them, but it goes everywhere from aquaculture and traditional fishery conservation to things like working waterfronts, habitat restoration, and coastal resilience. Our communications group, we soon have one more person and one person leaving, so it averages about 3 or 4 people And it is basically, they look at ways to make our information accessible to the outside world. We do about 70 publications, and we run public awareness campaigns. One of the really nice things that we've been working on more recently is to learn how to do social media, which I haven't learned, but they have. And also to build our website up and make it more useful. And the other area is education. We have a small K-12 education program that's primarily focused on NOAA Science Camp in the summer, Workable, which is about to hit us at the end of February, and then we have Washington on Water, which is a web-based clearinghouse. In addition to that, our staff are involved in dozens of informal education events every year. The other thing that we have going on is we have a series of fellowships that we offer. The top one is the Canals Fellowship, is one you're probably most familiar with, and the Hirschman Fellowship in Marine Policy. It's at the state level. And then we have the Sea Grant NOAA Fisheries, Economics, and Population Dynamics Fellowships. And we also are involved in the NOAA Coastal Management one, and we have Communications Fellows as well. And then the new one that we'll talk about a little bit today is this Sea Grant Research Fellows that we stole from California. So the competitive projects that we do, this is the numbers from last time, and some of the folks that we have who do our research are involved in our projects right now. Last time, 2 years ago when we did this, we had 58 pre-proposals, and they requested over $9 million. Again, in that competition, we had $2 million total. So folks that are on the phone, if you can please mute your phone, otherwise it comes through to the general group. We ended up with 29 full proposals, and then from that we selected 11 new research and 2 new workforce development projects, or the ones that we funded. Currently, at the present time, because we do the competitions every 2 years, and we also get money from the National Office for Aquaculture Research, we had almost 40 ongoing projects. They involve 66 institutions and more than 160 investigators and graduate and undergraduate students. So the key documents that you need to go ahead and apply to Washington Sea Grant for a competitive grant is first the RFP that you should all have gotten this past week. Then the interesting thing the National Sea Grant Office has us doing this year is we are developing our strategic plan for the next 4 years at the same time that you're supposed to be developing projects that align to that plan. So there's a little bit of a mismatch. What we did is we have an almost final version of it that's up on the web. It's the kind of typewritten guy in the middle. And then hopefully once we get everything finalized, we'll have a final version that'll be up on the web. My guess is that some of the language in the document will change in terms of the approaches and outcomes, but for the most part, all of the things that you really need to align with, which are the focus areas, are going to remain the same. We have no plans to change them. And they're very, very similar to the ones that we have had for the past 4 years, for those of you who are funded now. So the critical program areas, first one is healthy coastal ecosystems. This is probably the biggest one for our research projects, and it's focused on conserving habitats and populations and addressing environmental stressors. And that's everything, so ocean acidification, harmful algal blooms, aquatic invasive species, all those kinds of issues are addressed under this one. Second one is sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. That one's kind of the traditional one that people think of was Sea Grant. A lot of the aquaculture funding comes from national competitions, but we also have a fair number of projects that are submitted as state projects for this RFP as well. And then a lot of the sustainable fisheries work is looking at ways to providing scientific basis for management is one of the big things that we do under this one. The workforce training and technical assistance is largely the outreach staff. Resilient communities and economies, this is preparing for natural hazards, it's preventing pollution, and then looking at economic and environmental tools for coastal communities. And then the last one is ocean literacy and workforce development, and this is basically the traditional education activities for both K through 12 and for our graduate program. And the other thing is building, this is a microphone that talks back, building workforce capacity and strengthening public understanding. So, yeah? Hello?
I had been out of touch on Cheryl's site for a while.
So, can you please mute your machine? Oh, okay.
Now they can't. It's just so my computer's not playing.
Whatever Chelsea says. Okay, so we are going to have about $2 million over the next 2 years, beginning in 2018, to support, we estimate, 8 to 10 projects. This is a conservative estimate. I'm sure all of you have noticed that things in Washington, D.C. have changed remarkably in the last few months. Right now, we have funding through the end of March, and then I guess there are no federal appropriations after that. The Congress is going to take care of it. So it's a little bit of a time of uncertainty. We have no idea if we'll get our full allocation, or if we'll get no allocation, or if we'll get almost all of it. So we're I think what we talked about it and said, okay, fine, we're going to pretend everything is going to be just the same way as normal, only maybe a little bit more conservative. So if everything goes swimmingly, we may have a little bit more money, but this is our best guess right now. The 4 things that each project has to do, they have to align with that strategic plan, which is basically one of those 4 focus areas. They have to meet the program evaluation criteria, which we'll talk about in just a minute, and it's also in the RFP. They have to include an engagement plan, which is going to be a big part of the discussion today, and they have to be submitted through EC grant. And those of you who have suffered with EC grant for the past 3 or 4 years think that you know it. The wonderful thing is we've taken it apart and put it all back together again, so it's a completely new and confusing system again. So anything that you think you know about it, you'll find out it may be different. Give yourself enough time. The changes in the RFP this year, one of the things that we decided to do, last time around was the first time we had a project cap. We still were ending up with many projects requesting right up to the cap or a little over. What we did the last time around is we did 3-year grants for some of the bigger projects, which doesn't work at all in a time of budget uncertainty. So we're going to go ahead and do a 140K cap this year, and that's it. We don't want to see, it'll be actually grounds for not moving the thing through if you submit it for more than that. We're going to be as tough as the feds. So the other reason that we did that is we are building on a California program. One of the issues that we've had over the past few years is the cost of graduate students, I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, is going up. Substantially, the cost of tuition is going up. So we're going to copy a California model and provide Sea Grant research fellowships. You can go ahead and request them as part of your package whenever you fill out your paperwork. There'll be a space in EC Grant to identify that you want one. They'll be patterned after the California program. We lifted as much of the language as we could from the California RFP, and what we want to do with that, you'll be able to apply for the student, they come with a stipend, and then you'll pay for the tuition and fees out of your base budget. It'll be part of your $140,000 cap, but the idea is by paying them as a research fellow under the underlying authority in the Sea Grant law, we will not have, there won't be indirects charged on the stipend. So if you're paying on-campus indirects at the UW rate, that saves you about $18,000 a year. So we're hoping that that's going to be good enough so that it'll help make it more cost-effective to support a graduate student versus a postdoc or undergraduates. Either of those two other options are great. We just were losing all of our graduate student support, so we wanted to try to figure out a way to deal with that. If you have any suggestions, what we'll probably do is when we get to the end of it, we'll take all the fellows out and they will be supported under a separate program. Then the other thing that we did, we tried last time around to do workforce development projects. Those were, we got 2 really good projects out of it, but it was really, really difficult because the community that supports workforce development is not used to writing this style of grants. So what we...
And publications and research updates. Also, some of the other tools we have are, oops, what happened there? Here we go. Okay, so some of the other tools that we have are the newsletter and Facebook and Twitter and press releases. In addition to that, we can also provide media relations and media training. Last year, we coordinated with the College of the Environment and offered training. This coming fall, I'm hoping to work with the University of Washington's News and Information Office for training. And in terms of media relations, what that means is that when you do have news breaking, we can coordinate with the journalists in the region and get your news out to them, and we handle the follow-up, we provide photos, make sure the quotes are accurate, and basically make sure that your features are in the right place at the right time. So you can work with us on that, help you with that. And in addition to that, we also can provide photography, videotaping, and on a limited basis, we're hoping to do short vignettes or videos for YouTube, highlighting people's work. Again, it wants to do other things. But essentially, you can see that there's a list of projects that we can offer, or support that we can offer to your projects as they progress. And I'm not sure, there they are, there's the list. Editing is yet another piece of something, another sort of support that we can provide. And with a little advanced planning, we can service you in those ways. So if you want to request communication support, contact me 4 to 6 weeks in advance. Even shorter, we can accommodate you, and we'll do our best to do that. Thank you very much.
Coming back to check the chat box.
Oh, okay. So that's it. Thank you very much. Are there any, so what we want to do now is break up and let you talk individually to folks. Are there any general questions that people want to ask before we start? Okay, one thing I did want to make you...
So we have one question on the chat box, which is how does it work to have funding start in February when you're funding a student?
Yeah, that's, we're going to figure that out. This is a perennial problem for us, and I know the folks from the SAFs have that issue really routinely. I don't know that there's anything we can really do other than we won't be able to tell you in September that you have the funding, and we'll have to figure out if there's some way we can deal with it. I don't think that's a new issue.
Yeah, John, we can talk in more detail about that offline. Are there other folks who are participating with us remotely who have questions? I think this sort of concludes our remote. Oh, sorry, Danny.
Is the timing for the undergraduate fellowships the same as the RFP and all the other stuff?
They're graduate fellows, and yes, it would be the same. Our whole year works on the National Sea Grant program. Our whole, our fiscal year runs from February to Wednesday. So that's kind of what we're stuck with. One thing I did want to let folks know, if you are going to work with one of our staff, you don't have to pay for their time. That comes, they'll work on it as part of their work plan, that they do with Paul every year, and that's built into the outreach side of our budget. So I wanted to make sure people understood that, because we do get a lot of questions about that part of it. So it's basically free labor.